Yo, Apex Bobby here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about 10 shows you can watch on Netflix. Let's get started. So, Netflix and show. That's a very common thing, especially nowadays, right? But you probably just watched the latest season of 13 Reasons Why, or finish Money Heist, or some other kind of show. So my list is gonna have 10 shows that you may or may not have seen. So stay tuned to that. So real quick, number 10, Avatar: The Last Airbender. This show has been on for so long. It was on Nickelodeon back in the early mid 2000s, and the message is so cool. You know, Aang and his fellow friends work together, learning the 4 elements: fire, water, earth, and air. And then, you know, try to fight the Fire Lord. You learn about friendship, you learn about the environment, you learn about even some political science about what is imperialism. So, highly recommend, if you haven't seen that, watch Avatar, actually. The Last Airbender, the TV show, not the movie. No need on the movie, right? So, number 9, that is actually Patriot Act. That show is by my homeboy Hassan Minaj, and he just talks about different issues, what's going on, especially nowadays with the whole movement going on, plus previous videos about what is the rent situation, how is fast fashion going on, and very other political issues in the world. And his humor is actually very funny, just coming from another Desi guy, right? So I highly recommend Patriot Act. He's a cool dude, really good quality stuff with statistics and good humor. Now, for my med fellow audience, y'all probably never heard of this show, or maybe you have. It's not Grey's Anatomy, it's not House, it's not Scrubs. It's actually The Night Shift. The Night Shift is actually a really good show. I hope it's still on Netflix at this moment. But you just learn through all these characters, man, and you see the dynamics of being a veteran and serving in the military, who's also like a medical combat someone. And they're in the night shift, and there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened at night, right? So it's a really good show. It takes place in the setting of San Antonio, so here in Texas, that's pretty close by. And you know, I highly recommend that show. And the procedures look so real, and the character dynamics are so clean, and there are some spicy spots here, there, and that's, every show has that, but that show has some spicy spots. So highly recommend Night Shift. It's a really good show, actually. Alright, so let's throw some Netflix exclusives. You know, these are only on Netflix. I think you can probably get The Night Shift on Hulu, and yeah. Or what do people use nowadays? Amazon Prime? Amazon Now? I don't, HBO? I don't even know. There's so many streaming platforms. So this number 7 is actually Stranger Things. So the cool thing about Stranger Things is that it's actually, many of it are just kids. It's almost like the It movie, except it's better and it's less boring, and the characters are likable. And it takes place almost in that 1980s setting. The voice, the casting is so phenomenal, and you know, boy likes that Nancy, right? So it's a really good show. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit slow paced in the first season. Second season, it's aight. Like, it wasn't my favorite. They sort of got a little bit more edgy on some other stuff, but like season 3 was really phenomenal, and now there's a season 4 in the works. So highly recommend that show, Stranger Things. That is my number 7 on that list, actually. Yeah. So number 6 is Lucifer. So although the name is pretty weird, it's actually a pretty good show. So for some reason, Satan got sent to Earth, or he likes to chill in Earth. I guess that happens in real life. And he actually enjoys Earth stuff pretty good. And when things are happening, he works with the police department. Out of all the departments, the police departments, I guess you can see some similarities between the police and Lucifer. I don't know. But anyways, so Lucifer's a good show. I sort of dropped it myself just because it sort of got a bit boring. Plus the girl, the main detective lady, is from Chicago Fire, and if you know anything about Chicago Fire and her character, it's sort of weird seeing her, like, I don't know. I dropped the show, but I highly recommend it. It's very good humor, and the character who plays Lucifer is actually a pretty good guy, actually. So, highly recommend. That's my number 6, actually. Alright, so now we on number 5. Number 5 is actually what I said in the beginning, Money Heist. It's a really good show, hence the name, actually, is just a heist for money. And it's cool because it's the dynamics of the characters and the names of the characters you know, they can't use their real names, right? Instead of like naming a dumb heist name like, oh, he's color blue and red like Power Rangers or some weird stuff. It's actually like cities of well-known places like Tokyo and Berlin and Helsinki. Those names are pretty awesome, honestly, and highly recommend Money Heist. It is in Spanish, but you can always change the audio and add subtitles to make it English or whatever language you need. So I highly recommend Money Heist. It's also a pretty spicy show. Honestly, the first episode you're like, should I even be watching this? But honestly, it's a really good show, and the character dynamics are good, and you know, even if you watch it in audio for English by changing it, it's actually pretty good dubbing. So I highly recommend Money Heist. It's a new show. It has a lot of seasons, so it's perfect in this time where it's like summer and you have nothing to do. Just watch a couple of them, and I highly recommend that as my number 5, Money Heist. Yep. So number 4 can be a hit or miss. It depends on people, but I really like cooking shows, and cooking shows are pretty cool because, like, first of all, the chefs, they're making stuff, and that creativity aspect is pretty awesome, right? So my number 4 is actually The Final Table. It's a Netflix show, and it's on there. I think it's from 2019. I don't know if they're gonna make another season, but it's really cool how they jump from country to country. Each country has their own special dish. You know how like India has butter chicken, and how Brazil has their own type of unique kind of dishes, and you jump around from like place to place, and it's really cool because it's like everyone's working on the same ingredient and how they utilize stuff, and you really see a lot of like creativity and the partnership between these teams. It's highly recommended. Like, it's only 10 episodes, so it's not that long, but man, it's like 2 shows. It's like one show of it like battling it out, who gets the best dish, and then there's the last plate, whereas like one of those teams in the bottom 3, they have to fight each other, and only one team will go. So it's like 2 shows in 1 episode. It's pretty good. I highly recommend it. And yeah, if you like cooking shows, Final Table. That's my number 4 on that, yeah. Alright, so number 3 is actually All-American. So All-American, it really depends on how you are as a person. I really like football. American football for me is pretty awesome. Plus, when you add that with, you know, the situation, especially current situation right now with you know, African Americans and Caucasian people, that show really influences a lot about like what is Los Angeles and Crenshaw and LA. It's a very good dynamic, and it has a lot of big serious issues, and I highly recommend it. All American. And also, like, one character is Asher, right? You probably don't like him in the beginning, but he becomes cool, and he's like almost like a foil character of the main dude, honestly. And like, also the guy who plays Asher, he's also the voice actor for Cloud in Final Fantasy VII, the remake one. So I highly recommend it. If you can piece those 2 together, you'll be like, yo, Cloud, why are you playing football, honestly? But I highly recommend it. It's a really good show, and it has some seasons out, and you can even probably recognize that the coach for the Beverly Eagles is actually the same dude who was in previous movies of different stuff. So it's like, hey, that guy is in there. So you'll see a lot of cool cameos from like previous people from other shows and stuff. So I highly recommend All American. That is my number 3. Yeah, that's my number 3 on that list. So almost down to the wire. So that's number 3, All American. So before I go to the top 2, I want to just mention some honorable mentions, right? So let me get that keypad ready. So I just want to say that Ozark, The Crown, Supernatural, Quantico, Waco, You, and the Marvel Daredevil, those are my honorable mentions. I wanted to add them in the list somewhere because those shows are pretty influential. I could add more in the honorable mentions or on this list, but I had to cut it down for some time, you know, like, time is important, yeah. So number 2, actually, not sure how much of y'all are familiar with anime, right? Animation, Japanese anime. So this is actually, in many communities, this is actually a pretty big staple. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. There's the first one too, Fullmetal Alchemist, but usually it deferred from the main manga plot. So Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is actually a very engaging story where two brothers, they try to resurrect their mom because they lost their mom, so they use some type of magic or alchemy in that world. And actually it led some very devastating consequences, and now they're just trying to pick up the pieces. Instead of, you know, just trying to live out their lives and be like, that was a silly mistake, they go to science school, which is like the philosopher kind of alchemy school. But what's weird is that they never really learn it. They just have it, so they just like clap their hands and bam. And they're trying to find the Philosopher's Stone, and then in the midst of all this stuff, they're learning much about like what is the political environment and how is alchemy supposed to be used and what is the complications of using that magic. And it's a very engaging story. It has a lot of stuff, even knowing that the leader does something and who's the guy with the scar. It's like a very engaging plot, and even though it's more than 10 years old, its story is good. And man, the soundtrack, oh man, you can watch it in Japanese. I watch it both, but up to you. The English dub is really good, and the Japanese is really good, so it's up to you. If you like anime or you want to give it a try, it's a very deep story, and highly recommend it. That's number 2, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Thank you. And now number 1. For the binge-worthiness of the content, Criminal Minds is probably my number 1. Like, there's probably other shows like Grey's Anatomy or Private Practice or some other show that I may not know, but Criminal Minds, if you need to just watch something and you're not bored of like, you know, detective kind of drama shows. I was gonna do Blue Bloods, honestly, but Blue Bloods, honestly, like, I think it's on Netflix still now, and I just got bored of it. I was like I like the main dude with the big mustache, reminds me of my dad, but like, honestly, like, Blue Bloods it got boring to me. Criminal Minds, you can jump to any episode. You don't have to follow a story. There's probably some subliminal messages throughout each list, but like, something in season 5 is not going to reference something in season 1. So it's like, if you want to just watch a show, Criminal Minds is by far one of the best shows you can just watch, and you won't get as tied down as Law and Order, in my opinion. So that is my number 1, Criminal Minds. That's it. That's my list. If you want to comment your favorite show or what show you want to mention that, hey, someone who may be bored, want to watch them, maybe I could watch them, like, just comment down below. And thanks for watching, and that's it. Apex out.